break it. Get them down there.
Okay, it says live on Facebook.
Bing.
Hold on.
Oh, I hear nobody's. What the hell going on? All right, now let me share.
Yeah, we in there. Tell Brad he could come on now.
Play his theme music.
The hell? Is that his theme? Is that his theme music? I don't see it live though.
I do. I'm sharing it right now.
Okay.
It looks just like that. Prima, and it's on Brad's. It says public. All right, we got 13 people already viewing.
Okay.
Okay, I can't see it. Oh, fucking
Okay.
They start having a water fight down here, so I'm moving like down the block a little bit.
Oh, it's about to get lit.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Brad to come in here.
I see you tag me.
Yeah, and
Okay, I see it. Man. Where he at? How y'all doing, people? Thank y'all for tuning in. We waiting on Brad. He got to play his theme music before he come on.
wow.
Special edition of Urban Voices.
That's a delay like a month.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Hey, for real though. So if y'all hear shooting or something in the background, that's the kids playing Fortnite. So don't be diving under y'all chairs and shit like that.
Oh, because I'll be like, oh, I got to go. It's getting hot in here.
Yeah.
I'm fresh out the clink. The nerve. Like, what's going on?
Brad.
What the hell, Brad is?
Brad.
Hold on.
He waiting on the DJ. All right, we all good.
All right, let me put him in. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. That was too much work.
They put you to work. Yeah, y'all give her a raise.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, about damn time.
All right.
All right. Everybody in here?
He had to get his headphones.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Hold on.
What?
I can't hear everybody.
I can't hear no sound though.
Let me pull over real quick. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
Yep.
My volume is super duper low. I don't know why. Hold on. Audio. Yeah.
When you looking like it ain't nowhere in hell we look like.
All right, it's super low, but we can go.
Hey, T, can
Yeah.
you check and see if they can hear us on Facebook?
Hold on.
Can everybody hear us on Facebook?
Throw some hearts up, y'all.
Yeah, because I'm on Facebook from my phone.
All right,
Okay.
real quick.
Maybe it's not mine.
All right, let's roll. I think it's low because I'm on two different breads, I guess. I don't know. All right. Anyway, if you're in the building, you can hear me. Welcome to our virtual edition of Urban Voices Live. I'm your host, Brad Harrison. We have had all type of technical difficulties, and it's all my fault because I'm actually in Lexington, Kentucky right now. So I'm in Lexington, and we tried to do Zoom from my cell phone, and it wasn't working. So shout out to Tiandra. We had to have her go through all type of changes to get us online, but we're here. So we have myself, my co-host Tiandra Robinson, my man Sean Mucker, and we have Shay K. Woolfolk and Jason Downey. These are the two people you guys have been talking about all week. Now check it out, people. For those that don't know the backstory, I'm gonna give it to you real quick, and I'm gonna let them take over. Earlier this week, and I believe the actual arrest date was July 1st, but the date you guys were out was it the 30th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So June 30th, the night of June 30th, Shay K. Woolfolk and Jason Downey were arrested by LMPD. Now, both of these people were out at 6 and Jefferson, and they were live streaming the police activities concerning the protesters. Shay was both of them were on the live. I was actually watching Shay's live while she got arrested. So I'm sitting there saying, I know they're not going to arrest her. I know they're not going to arrest her. And they actually arrested her. So let me tell you what I saw from Shay's live. It was a little bit after 11 p.m. and there was apparently LMPD, there was a shooting that happened at Justice Square Park maybe about a week ago. So since that shooting occurred, LMPD has said that they're shutting down the park at 11 p.m. However, their rules seem to vary day by day. There's really not a concrete rule. I didn't see any visible signs up in the park. Jason will be able to let you know about that a little later. But I haven't seen any signs in the park. But the park apparently closes at 11 p.m. The first couple days after this rule was in effect, I don't think they really enforced it at all. So on the 30th, Shay and Jason were down at the park. Police came in. Police approached the park maybe right at 11 or maybe 5 minutes before 11, and they started harassing a young lady that brings food down to the park. So there are all type of people that bring down food, drinks, medical supplies, because homeless people, everybody's down at this park, and there's all type of supplies and food for them. The lady was packing her van up, I guess, to leave. Police surrounded her vehicle, pulled her out, and actually towed her vehicle. So people began to get a little agitated at the park. That's when I saw Shay walking up on live. Shay's not in the park. Shay's on the sidewalk. So I'm watching Shay walk up, and I see LMPD officers on your live stream. They're in riot gear. They're spread out across the street, shoulder to shoulder, how they do when they're taking a stance to come in and I say crack some heads, but there were a few dozen of them. So they were out there shoulder to shoulder. I'm watching this and I hear a recording. So I'm assuming they do this standard recording before they come in. It says something like, there's an unlawful assembly. You're participating in an unlawful assembly. Please leave. So I see Shay standing on the sidewalk and the officers seem to form a perimeter around the park, blocking people in the park. Shay's live streaming from the sidewalk. I hear Jason next to her live streaming. They ask him to leave the park. People began to say, well, we're going on the sidewalk. They said, I heard them say, if you stand on the sidewalk, then you're fine. I watched Shay on the sidewalk, then instantly officers rushed her, pushed her to the ground, and tied her up with flex cut with what are they?
Zip ties.
Zip ties,
Yep.
right. So Shay, I'm gonna let you go first. How did it feel? Were you surprised that you were arrested after officers said it was okay to stand on the sidewalk?
It's a yes and a no for me. Yes, because I honestly did not think, being media, them knowing who I am and what I do, that they would arrest me. But I'm not surprised because LMPD over the course of the weeks, because I've been out there 30 days out of 32, I believe, have let me know all the time with their subtle comments or interactions that they know who I am and they were not fond of what I'm doing.
Wait a minute, so let's be clear for a second. You are independent media in the city, and you weren't actually participating at that moment in a protest, but you were just documenting the scene.
I'm always documenting.
Okay.
Always.
Okay, so once when officers approached you, did you immediately know that you were under arrest?
When you mean after, when they told me to get down?
When they started walking towards you, did you feel like you were going to be arrested at that point?
Well, when they started walking towards us, if you look at the live, they went from a walk to a running cadence towards us. And what I saw was 50 some officers in riot gear only feet away from me. And they're also screaming disperse. So it was time to get out of there. Because if we had stood there, they would have physically been on top of us. It was a situation that went so fast. When I turned around, there were already officers coming from the other side. So it was that type of thing.
Okay, now you were arrested, and this is the part that we want to get to, that we're going to pass it over to Jason. You were arrested and you were charged with rioting in the first degree, which is a Class D felony.
Yep.
You were charged with fleeing or evading police, which is a second degree felony, and they put in parentheses by walking. So you flee the police by walking. That's not much of a flee, but but they did put that in parentheses. And the last charge was an unlawful assembly. So the two latter charges are misdemeanors, but the rioting was a felony, is a felony. And you were charged with rioting for simply live streaming. Now, Jason was standing next to you. He was live streaming as well. And he was charged with failure to disperse and unlawful assembly, which are both misdemeanors. So, Jason, can you tell us what you saw that night?
So I had showed back up at the park a little bit before 11. Yeah, I was down. I was live streaming, doing my thing, making sure the truth gets out there. Since the shooting last Saturday, right? The word from police had been, at 11 o'clock, the park shuts down, but you can still be here on the sidewalk. And so, the peaceful protest would continue to go on the sidewalks. It's been like that since Saturday. Tonight was different. Even though the crowd was on the sidewalk, there was a lady, and Shay, you have to fill me on her first name. I cannot remember it right now. It's a lady that has the food truck down here and is feeding people every day. Yep.
Sharice, I think.
Yeah, she's loading food and loading water into her van, and the police they walk their line in between the park and her van, and they proceed to tow her van. That prompted kind of an angry response from the now peaceful protesters, as you can imagine. About four bags of trash got tossed into the street, which prompted 52 riot police. I did count 52 police in riot gear to form a semicircle or a half circle, kind of on the north and west sides of the park. From there, they proceeded to walk into the park, ordering us to disperse. I begin to walk backwards. I make it about 10 steps. The police that was closest to me charged and tried to grab me. See, I pulled my middle school football move, moved out the way, and then got straight tackled from the side into a porta potty, slammed into the concrete, and arrested.
Okay, now here I want to ask both of you guys this question. Now, Jason, you were charged with failure to disperse and unlawful assembly. So they didn't charge you with the fleeing or evading either. And I was watching Shay's live, and I know what a flee looks like to me. I mean, she took a couple steps backwards, but it wasn't a fleeing motion. But why do you feel that between the two of you, you were charged so differently, with you having only misdemeanors and her having felonies?
Well, so let me touch on the first point first, right? So because I was locked up and I was talking to several people what they got charged with, everybody either got charged with failure to disperse or fleeing. So it was like no matter what you did, you saying they got you for something. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is I really don't have a clear answer other than what we're all thinking, right? Of why Shay would get charged harder than I got charged.
Do you consider that being white privilege?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the fact that somebody would look at me doing the same thing and think because we look alike that I don't deserve as harsh a penalty as somebody else, it's bullshit.
Right. So while you two are at the park actually fighting against racial injustice may have happened to you two.
Yeah.
So you have a black woman and a white gentleman like yourself, and you're both. And I know people might want to say that each case is individual, but you two were actually standing within a few feet of each other, actually both live streaming at the exact same moment, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
We were in each other's lives.
Yeah.
Did they ever ask y'all for any identification or anything?
No, I mean, they took it out of my wallet, so they knew who I was.
Or even like credentials or anything like that?
No.
I told them, but they let me know, and I really don't want to get too far into it, but I was told they knew who I was before the arrest.
So what? Let me ask you this: there's two actual scenarios floating around Facebook, and one is that the obvious that you were charged with the felony because you're black, and the second is that people tend to feel like LMPD now is targeting people who live stream, and that's just something I picked up here recently, and I've seen Maxwell Mitchell, and I saw a young lady, Milky, so I can't remember her exact name, but Milky.
Steph, yep.
Right. So it appears, so today, what I heard that at first, and when I heard it, I didn't really put too much behind it because I didn't really have a lot of evidence behind it. And then today, I saw an article come out. Well, I was actually watching this live video as well. That same night, one of those big LMPD, it's not a tank, but it's maybe one of those large SWAT vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It actually rammed into a car, and I watched this on my live. LMPD originally put out a statement that the protester struck the SWAT vehicle, but we saw differently on this person's live. And there was a white young lady. I wish I should have brought her on. There was a white young lady that was actually in her car.
Yeah.
She live streamed it, and she opened her car door and asked the officer his name. When she did that, he approached her vehicle, drug her out of the vehicle, and arrested her. And I heard him when he opened the door. I don't know if he was trying to cover himself. He said, "You're assaulting me," and I heard her say, "No, you're assaulting me." Mm-hmm. So it appears that. But when LMPD initially put the story out, they said that a protester struck the SWAT vehicle. Now today, they submitted a retraction saying that didn't occur, that a protester didn't strike the vehicle, because we all saw the live stream. So it's starting to appear that LMPD wants to paint a certain narrative to the media. They want to give the media information about arrest or what's taking place on 6th and Jefferson, and they don't want live streamers streaming so that people can actually see what is actually going on.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, you know, and so there's 2 points that I want to kind of touch on there, right? So the first one is that let's say that theoretically that Shay and I were twins, right? Like we look the exact same. The fact that police officers have ambiguity to decide how that they want to charge people is what allows for there's a lack of accountability for that, right? Because a police officer can choose based on kind of whatever they want at this point to charge people with, which is what even opens up the concept for white privilege, racial inequality, for some people to get hit harder than the others, just because the officer might not like that person for whatever reason. And that's very, very dangerous. The second point is we talk about that live stream, right? That the fact that had we not have caught that on live stream and put that on the internet, do you think we would have gotten an apology and a retraction from LMPD?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You know, so and if you think about that, all these cops know they're being filmed. They know who Shay. They damn sure know who Shay is. They're starting to learn who I am. And if they're acting like this when they know they're being filmed, what do you think they're doing when they're not? It's terrifying.
Very.
Listen, and I try to stress to people that a lot of people, I don't think the general public understands that law enforcement has contacts at media outlets. So what they do is when a story comes out, they have certain reporters or maybe certain managers at the media outlets that they feed stories to. So what struck me with your arrest was, like many other arrests of protesters, every single, dating back to the beginning days of the protest, every time someone is arrested, the mugshots are released, and we see a story about it the following day. Now, if you guys remember, last week when Black Lives Matter shut down the 2nd Street Bridge, we did not see any mugshots, and no media stories in the headline mentioned Black Lives Matter was responsible for this. The city of Louisville, I feel, wants these protests to end.
Yeah.
They don't want the narrative out there that Black Lives Matter was able to pull something like that off to give further momentum to these protests. They have the absolute power to control the narrative, kill stories or fuel stories.
Yep.
And that's, I don't know if you saw your headline. Your headline said something about erratic or dangerous activity. But all the rest were because you guys were acting in a dangerous manner. And if you look at the live stream, it was totally peaceful.
So, if I may, that particular day, the mood down there was different. Not the crowd, LMPD's energy. Very different, very negative. All I can say, and I understand I have a pending case, so I had to ask my attorney if it was cool to do this. You talked about the young lady who, her name is Mackenzie Fox, and I was in holding with her. I've had conversations with her. I've watched her live. The other live casters I've had conversations with, I've watched her. The only ones that got these felony charges I've received, that the young lady Mackenzie, who was the witness that has caused them to recant. For me, it's racial. It's also about silencing the truth. I know for a fact that LMPD knows who I am and was watching my live, because once my live went dead, it was a very different energy and conversation. I know that they were watching because they told me nose to nose when the live was dead. I know that it has something to do with the bridge. They were upset about that because I was able to watch the officers acting in a way that at that moment made me feel like somebody, of the 4 females they had arrested, myself and 3 other live casters, that somebody was going to get hurt. I saw how they acted. I saw their anger. I saw how dangerous it was. And it was the first time that I was afraid that night, because it was a very different energy. And there were no cameras around to catch it. They made sure lives were off, and I sat on the ground with 3 other women, zip-tied, with about 38 officers hovering over us in riot gear, batons twirling, guns, the semi-automatic that they used, I don't know if it was pepper balls. It was about intimidation, and it was about being quiet. They want me to be quiet. I know this because they told me that.
Now, Shay, I heard you in your live stream telling them that I am media, my credentials are in the car. I also heard you telling them that my children are in the car and my car is parked by the curb and they're in the car at the car run. Now, I assume they were in the car with an adult, but they were in the car as well. But that they didn't show any mercy whatsoever.
One officer. And I want to touch on this only because my spirit tells me I have to. An older officer. He is the one who zip-tied me. What I said to him was, well, as I'm saying, I'm media. He looks at me, and I don't care what happened after that moment. I have to acknowledge not only his kindness, but the fact that at that moment, I realized it was like, oh, wow, we got this media. I mean, he literally didn't know what to do. But when he zip-ties me, that's the officer you hear being really nice. He was older. He kind of didn't fit the narrative, didn't fit what was going on. So I don't know how he ended up over there, because he was not in full gear. They knew who I was. But when I say to him, I'm media, I'm working, he literally was not going to put the zip ties on me. He looks at the other officers, and they gave him the signal, zip tie. For me, when they did that, I thought at that moment, well, I might not make it out of here, because it was a different energy. It was something, I don't think city cameras probably caught it because the officers were all around. The 4 ladies sitting on the curb.
So what happened to that officer after he zip tagged you? Did they?
He was still there. He was not the officers that engaged me after. If you look at my live, there's a shot of an officer because the picture's going around and everybody's talking about how evil he looked. He engaged me. He told me that they watched our lives, that they had been watching our lives. That was he made that announcement. And another officer spent time engaging me because there was a conversation that LMPD wanted me to have. And during his conversation that looked just like an interview I would do with someone, he went on to tell me LMPD's side. We need to understand their side. We need to be compassionate about what they go through. My arrest was about a message. My arrest was about changing the narrative. I guess they thought that having the conversation and arresting him might change my narrative. And I've not changed my narrative. So now we're at the point, since I've not changed my narrative, how scary is that? Because I've not done what they want me to do. Because during the conversation, the officer even talks about the Breonna Taylor case, that I should realize that there are sides to the story. He didn't think that those officers meant to do that, but there's more evidence. Now, if you don't know, about a week and a half prior to my arrest, I interviewed Sam Aguilera, who was the attorney on Breonna Taylor's case. LMPD was not happy about that. They're still not happy about it. So I know that my arrest there was a meaning, a purpose, and a message with it.
Okay, Jason, let me ask you. Let me switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
You've been at Jefferson Square Park, which now is locally known as the Justice Park. You've been there maybe since the second day that the protest began. So almost 30 days now, or maybe a little over 30 days.
A little more.
Can you give us the temperament of the park from the first couple days, and then give us any changes that may occur and where it's at now? What's the tone of the park?
I'll tell you what, I'm actually down here. I'll flip my camera out here in a minute and I'll show you the water fight that they're having and the food that's being served down here. Let me walk over there right now and start talking.
Okay.
So the early days were rough. I mean, it was tear gas, pepper spray bullets, riot shields. It was starting at 10 o'clock in the morning and it was going all night. And I live streamed all that too. I got all that footage. I plan on submitting it for when they do a class action lawsuit or whatever. I mean, I'm standing on the front lines, getting tear gassed, and watching a bunch of peaceful protesters, on their hands and knees, sitting on their butts, holding signs, being shot with tear gas, having flashbangs shot at them. So the first couple of days were very, very, very rough. After that, things really kind of leveled out for a while. There was a couple weeks where it wasn't very eventful. People were still down here. They were protesting. A lot of people were showing up. And some voices started to be heard, right? Like we saw where Breonna's law got passed. No more no knocks, right? We saw where the interim police chief got fired. After Yaya got shot. So there was progress there for a couple weeks. Here in the last 10 days or so, LMPD has become increasingly hostile, kind of what Shay was saying, towards people down here. And once again, like let me flip this around for you, right? Now that I'm down here. What I do? Let me bring back. Sorry. This way, flip me around. I don't know how well you all can see it, right? But I mean, we've got music playing. Like they're serving food at these tents. Anybody can come get some hot dogs and hamburgers. The kids are having a water fight over here, kind of on the backside of the park. Like this is what it looks like before police show up every day. This is what it looks like, and even with the new 11 o'clock curfew, with the bullshit they put on, after what happened to Tyler, right? Rest in peace, Tyler. But people sit down here because there's still work to be done. And so when this 11 p.m. curfew happens and LMPD shows up in riot gear and tries to bully everybody out of their First Amendment rights, whether it's to A, protest, or B, be the media and record, both of that's First Amendment. When they try to bully people out of their First Amendment rights, the crowd responds accordingly. They get angry, they get fired up, and then because they're the police, or because they're the protesters, the police, we get arrested.
So you feel like they instigate the violence?
Absolutely.
That occurs tonight?
Absolutely. You know, and the park does well to police themselves, you know, in a sense that like people that are down here, if they're drinking, if they're on drugs, if they're starting fights, they force them to leave, right? Like nobody wants that bullshit. Like people are here, you know, people are here to protest, people are here to you know, to let their voices be heard. And while it can't be militant all the time, like days like today, like sometimes they're just here to barbecue and hang out and build community, which I think we all need more of. And then when police show up and do things like, you know, arrest the food van that they use to feed people all day, you know, how are people supposed to react? They're angry, you know, it's, yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
At times, and I've been down there for some of these times, but you're there a lot more than me.
Yep.
At times, protests take on a direction where there's a plan of action, and sometimes maybe like blocking the street to prevent city employees from getting to work. That's all done to put pressure on city officials, I'm assuming, to press charges against officers that killed Breonna Taylor and do other things. However, when I've seen those incidents take place, they take place for maybe 30 minutes or an hour at the most out of the day, and then the rest of the day is back to peaceful protesting. Do you feel that the media has portrayed an image that these type of activities take place for 12, 13, 14 hours of the day?
Yep, absolutely. So there's actually, her name is Valerie Chin. She's a reporter for WDRB, and I hope that bitch loses a front tooth. She gave an absolutely scathing review of what downtown was. She talked about it like it was a war zone. She was saying you can't come down here for blocks and blocks and blocks. Everything is ruined. No money's ever coming to downtown ever. It was terrible. Go find it on the internet. And man, if I ever see her, I'm gonna yell bad words behind our interview so that they can't. You can put it on the air. Like I'm done with that bitch. But you know, so what happens is, right, so your mainstream media comes down and they paint this horrible picture about what's peaceful 99% of the time. And what that does is prompt that bullshit like we saw from the American freedom fighters that were supposed to come as a militia and take their city back. Those kind of narratives are dangerous, and they build violence, and they're dishonest. Like it's not what it's like down here.
Right. Now, secondly, people were concerned at a certain point. A lot of homeless began camping out in the park, and then as a result of that, the murder did occur. Tyler's murder occurred.
Right.
Did from time to time, were there people entering the park that you guys felt shouldn't be there? And did you guys attempt to police the park yourselves? And did you have any interaction with the gentleman that is responsible for Tyler's murder?
So to answer your last question first, I had no interaction with that gentleman or honestly with Tyler. I met Tyler in passing, but you know, no more than hey, what's up? And the shooter, Stephen Lopez, like I hadn't had interaction with him at all. And you know, sure, like if certain people weren't allowed in the park, then yeah, Tyler would still be alive. But you can't, it's impossible to premeditate what might happen based on who's in the park, right? Because it's not like the dude that pulled that trigger, that shooter, Stephen Lopez, was just out there, you know, shaking, ready to kill somebody, right? He had obviously some kind of mental illness and he snapped. You know, you could say the same shit about Jefferson Mall this morning. There was two people, you know, and gun got brandished, right? But how do you can't premeditate, you can't pre-screen who your customers are. You know, you can't, so to try to put, you know, I'm not saying you're doing that, but for anybody to try to put the blame on the fact that people were feeding the homeless and letting them, you know, giving them a place to stay at night that caused Tyler's murder, I feel like is an inaccurate narrative that they're once again using to blame on the camp down here.
Okay. I know we're going to let you go because I know you're busy protesting. I've held you up, man, for over an hour, dude. I apologize, and I greatly appreciate your patience. One last question.
Okay.
You absolutely are what we would consider a white ally, and we appreciate your service. What sparked the fire in you to want to come down and protest for equality, for Black rights?
I hate any time that a white person gives their justification because they have a Black friend, but you know, it's the relationships that I have built with people that look different, act different, talk different, believe in different gods, and speak in different languages. My interaction with those people is what has sparked me to want to make sure that nobody leaves their house terrified, and that nobody should be judged by the color of the skin. Because as we all know, the color of your skin does not define you as an individual. Way smarter man than me said that first, like, content of my character, not the color of my skin. And so it was my interactions and my dealings with my friends and the pleasant interactions that I've had, with my friends in the past, and then meet new friends like Shay, right? Like, it's how could you not fight for this? How could you have people in your life that look different, that are scared to go outside in the same fucking streets you are? You can't. I just can't sit at home, and I admit that me in the past, like, I've always been very neutral, like, I wouldn't exactly say that I was white silence, but I was definitely not vocal. Maybe a not hidden fact, right, is the fact that every white family has like a racist at our Thanksgiving table, right? Like the grandma's dropping some shit. We got that one uncle. And for far too long, you know what I'm saying, our uncle got a pass. Our uncles aren't getting passes any longer. That shit's got to stop. They're going. I don't give a fuck how good the mac and cheese is. Like, this is done.
Hey, okay, I'm gonna let you go. Do you feel like, okay, with you brought up white silence, and we know that's been a thing. Do you think watching the video of George Floyd even woke people up that had in the past practiced white silence? Did that video
Breaking up, Brad?
do something to the world? It's like, hey, wait a minute, this is just unreal.
Absolutely, right? And I know it's a little bit before my time, but if you take sort of that same mentality to the fact, like when Rodney King got beat up, had that gentleman not been standing there on a phone, we'd have probably never heard Rodney King's name, but somebody recorded it, and they used that to try to convict those LAPD officers, right? And the same thing with George Floyd. Like, you saw a knee on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And if that didn't break a little bit of your heart, the fact that not even same race, different race, that another human being was yelling for his mom, like, if that didn't awaken anything in you, like,
his deceased mom at that.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, man, we appreciate you hanging out with us, man. Do you live stream still?
I do live stream. If anybody wants to follow me, my name on Facebook is Jason Downey. My last name is Downey. To be honest, I got friend requests like crazy. Shoot me a follow. Shoot me a message. I will try to read it. I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything. Let's be friends. You're saying invite me to the barbecue. Like, I'm all for it.
We appreciate you, buddy. Hey, if you bump into my buddy C-Tez, tell him that Brad has a gift for him. He's going to love it. Tell him I'll be down in a few hours. He's going to absolutely love it. All right. Thank you, Jason.
No problem. Hey, y'all be good. Be safe.
You too, Jay.
Jay, you want to close us out with some things?
So here's the thing. Here's what I say. Because as you know, I'm fighting felony charges. And now I'll be honest, that doesn't feel good. But at the same time, as I talked to my kids this morning, and people have to understand, my kids watch me, the rest of my mother, my son-in-law was on the live, my daughter. They all told me they were proud of me because they know why I go down there. I go down to cover, but I also protest. It's injustice, and I'm not going to let LMPD silence me. I'm not going to let anybody. Every time I'm there and I go live, it's just so you can see what I see. It may be boring at that minute. There are people who ride with me at night when I protest, and they like, nothing's going on. I'm like, right. There's no mess. There's no drama. There's no violence. It's very different when I wake up at 6 a.m. and I get my press drops and people are reaching out to me and I'm reading the different headlines and it'll say 4 killed. And I'm like, no, let that happen. That has put a fire in me to make sure the truth is out there. So yeah, I'm an old lady who's out there broadcasting, but my whole purpose is just so you see the truth, so that when you are hit with that negative media, when you are hit with those lying headlines, you can say, wait a minute, I was rocking with Shay K last night, none of that happened. And I'm not gonna stop. So LMPD, have they put the pressure on? Yes, have they sent a message? And I send my message back, I continuing to go out, I'll be out there tonight. Even with this, I do have a pending case and I'm happy. And just know I got Black representation, and so I'm very excited about that. She's phenomenal. I refuse to let LMPD silence me. I refuse to let LMPD put a knee on my neck. I refuse to bow out and not tell the truth. until I can't anymore, I'm gonna make sure I'm out there. You know, we're 32 days in. I've only missed one day protesting. I've seen amazing change. I was the only Black media in there when they passed and signed Breonna's law. One of the dopest feelings I've ever had. I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in there. I covered when y'all was shot. I was in the crowd. People were reaching out to me from all over the world, asking what they could do. That stuff fuels me. The shit that LMPD is doing is some punk shit, some mark shit. And where I come from, I don't respect that. They are cowards in uniform, and they want to use riot gear and live ammunition to silence the truth. But I know that we're doing something, because if we weren't doing something good, they wouldn't be coming for us so hard.
JK Woolfolk, we're gonna end it on that. Let me tell you something. Frame that mugshot. You're officially a G now.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Frame that mugshot. But no, seriously, look, you are a part of history. We're all a part of history, but you're a part of history. That was a sacrifice you made, because whether you realize it or not, right? You actually shined the light on three separate cases of injustice. One is the racial injustice. You and a white person were charged side by side. You charged more severely than him. Secondly, is the process of the criminal justice system overcharging people. That's a tactic they use often. They'll overcharge someone, or what we call throw the whole kitchen sink at you, and then that gets you to plea out to a lesser charge so they can secure a conviction. The third thing is that they are actually violating your civil rights, because you are standing on a public sidewalk downtown, and they actually, if you go back to the video, they actually told you you're fine if you stand on the sidewalk, and they arrested you. So there's an unlawful imprisonment, there's a racial injustice part to this, as well as overcharging. So hope you guys, salute you guys. This is a moment in history. Cherish it. I mean, it's a blemish for now, but it's actually a trophy. So cherish it, and we thank you guys for all your work.
Thank you.
Jay, is there anywhere you have a radio show you want to tell people how to tune in and follow you?
Most definitely. First off, you can just type my name in CHEA, put that middle initial K, and I literally pop up everywhere. Follow me on Facebook. I go live from my Facebook page every night. You can follow my fan page, which is JK Woolfolk. Every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I do the morning show at Power 106. Shout out to my Power 106 family, because they came through. They was over at crime trying to get a girl out. 106.3 on the FM dial, and at www.kyheartmedia.com. You can hang out with me in the morning. I keep it real easy in the morning, but at night, we turn it up for the city.
And check us out every Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. Same station, 106.3, Power 106, Louisville, Kentucky. We're on from 1 to 2. Every Saturday afternoon. I'm losing my voice out here, people. I've been screaming for a week. But 1 to 2 p.m. every Saturday, Urban Voices Radio. We thank both of you guys for chiming in. I'm sure the audience was more than thrilled to get all this information, because they've been waiting on all these specifics to come out. So thank you again, and we're out of here, people.
All right.
Oh, okay. How do I end this thing?